I didn't know that this would withstand the test of time that well, but it does.
So I was crying. It was heartbreaking.
It was a jump scare for me. You've ruined my life.
Anne of the Island. It's going to start. It starts now. Welcome to the Besties in the Books podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Liz. And today we are continuing on with our newest mini episode series all about one of the most classic and beloved tales, Anne of Green Gables.
Woo!
By L.M. Montgomery. Here we are.
I thought you were going to say, Dear Lord.
Dear Lord. No, I'm just kidding.
Help us all. No,
help us all. No, it's great. It's great.
No, it is great. It's great.
If you've been following along, then you know that we kicked this off with a whole episode where we kind of talked about what a coming of age story is. We talked about why that genre is important, especially in relation to telling girls' stories, telling women's stories. We even gave you some context by kind of explaining what was going on in Canada, specifically Prince Edward Island, where this takes place at the time, a little bit about L.M. Montgomery, the author. And then we followed it up with episode technically 2, where we covered books 1 and 2. And so today, since there are 8 books in the series, we'll be covering book 3, which is called Anne of the Island, and then book 4, which is called Anne of Windy Poplars. So we will be releasing a mini episode each week on a Friday about all 8 books, but we are clumping together the books. So it's like books 1 and 2 were 1 episode, and then today books 3 and 4 will be 1 episode, and so on. And then the final episode that we will wrap up with will cover the 1980s movie adaptations and kind of like our final thoughts and reviews on the whole series as a whole. We're covering the series because it's summertime. We wanted you guys to be able to read something with your kids if you wanted to. I know Ashley's been reading it with her daughter, which is so exciting.
Yeah, she's been loving it too, guys. She's 10 and loving it. She was wearing her shirt today that we got her.
So cute.
We got her a little Anne of Green Gables shirt to like be a part of the crew. She was so happy and she loves it. So
when
cute.
Ashley was here, she was very into watching the movies with us. It was like every night, are we going to be watching Anne of Green Gables? Are we going to be watching? Yeah. I'm like, I didn't know that this would withstand the test of time that well. But it does, which is so cool.
And she's running around talking about chicken salads all the time. It's so cute. They're like quoting it. It's so cute. Even my little 4-year-old was into it. I mean, into it because like we're all into it, but it was so cute.
Gilbert! Yeah, just give it time.
Oh, Gilbert! Yeah.
Just give it time. Yeah. And, you know, we wanted to dive deep into a classic story. I know that we want to cover more classics moving forward. You know, specifically about a unique, smart, and outspoken girl that has inspired a lot of us, but has also inspired a lot of authors that really changed the genre. And you know, we wanted to cover complex female characters that, you know, exist outside of, you know, the quote unquote norms of what women should be doing. And I use should, obviously, as a loose term at the time in society. So like, what do these stories tell us about what's going on in the world and the society that they're living in at the time? And what commentary can we kind of take from that? So that's what this is all about. The first 5-ish minutes will be spoiler free. We'll give you our basic star rating on these. These are spice free, so no spice rating on these. But before we get into that, we just wanted to say thank you so much for being here.
Seriously, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and your book to listen on what us goofballs have to say about this literary classic. If we haven't mentioned in the series yet, I think we have, but just a reminder, you know, the most popular books of this series are books 1 through 3, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be diving into 4 starting today, and we're kind of wanting to find out for you guys also, like, is it worth continuing on past that popular book 3? Is 4 through 8 worth the read? So we'll talk a little bit about that too when we start getting into these farther along books and the farther along in Anne's journey through life. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss out those episodes. Like Liz mentioned, those are dropping every Friday until the series is complete, finishing off with a wrap-up comparing the movies to the books, and you don't want to miss out on that. Of course, we have our every Tuesday episode. If your journey with Anne and us ends here and you just want to go back to Tuesdays, we're still posting on Tuesdays our normal bookish episodes, sometimes book specific, sometimes just book and fun whimsical whimsical, fun thing. So thank you guys so much. And make sure to follow us over on Instagram and TikTok. We're at Besties in the Books podcast everywhere, as well as the Fable app for your virtual book club needs. And that is Besties and the Book Club on Fable. So just search that and you'll find us. There we'll be. There we will be. We'll be there.
And Shirley would be disappointed in our grammar, but that's okay.
Because it's all right.
It's all right. We're making it through. So, all right, let's just start off with our spoiler-free one-sentence review and star rating for book 3.
Book 3, Windy Poplar, no, Anne of the Isle. Anne of the Island, it's going to start. It starts now, the confusion of the titles. I constantly have to look. Okay, so book, Anne of the Island. This one is actually more of a 4-star read for me. It was a good time. I had fun, but nothing was profound per se. It was more little quick, things throughout the book. But I really enjoyed my time. It was fun, just not life-changing per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I rated book 3, Anne of the Island, a 5-star.
Ooh.
I loved it. It was very nostalgic for me. I feel like I liked reading it at this time in my life because it all covers Anne's college years, which I feel like reading that now after having gone to college, it was much more relatable than when I read it as a kid. Obviously, I had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it for that reason. 5 stars for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Full of nostalgia and just like a good time. What about book 4, Anne of Windy Poplars? What do you think about that one?
Kind of the same thing. 4 stars for Anne of Windy Poplars. I did like how she's kind of going around collecting kindred spirits, if you will. Much quicker. Quicker collecting. So, yeah, I had a good time. Nothing life-changing, but I liked it. It was good. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, this one was hard for me. So, so far, just to recap, I have rated books 1, 2, and 3 all 5 stars. This one, I gave a 4-star. But I'm waiting for this conversation, and I might reduce it to 3 stars based on what we talk about.
Okay.
And the reason being, I felt like it was very disjointed to me. To keep it spoiler-free, it was very disjointed to me. I didn't feel like Anne's personality was similar enough to her personality in the first 3 books. It took like a weird turn. And the tone was completely different. And for that reason, I did not enjoy it as much. So I will share this later on, but it seems to be kind of a common review.
Oh, okay.
And then things turn back around with book 5 is what I'm finding when I'm reading reviews. So for some reason, this seems to be like the low point for a lot of people in the series, and then it comes back around. So I'm curious to see if that'll be for me as well. Like I said, I rated it 4 stars, but that's pretty generous. And so after this conversation, I'll either keep it at 4 stars or I will reduce it to 3, depending on if Ashley can convince me that I'm being too critical or not. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, and not that 4 stars is bad for book 3, but honestly, I read it a few weeks ago now. So you may refresh my memory on book 3 right now as we're talking, and I may bring it back up to 5 stars. But as I'm like right now, I'm like, I don't know. It just seems easy enough. I don't know if it's 5 stars. So yeah, we'll see if we can change each other's mind for better or for worse.
Yes.
Through this debate.
Okay, so let's get into our spoiler section, shall we?
Okay. Yeah. Get out of here if you don't want reviews of spoilers to be coming at you. There you go.
How lovely.
Spoilers are coming.
Yeah,
I was trying to mimic the...
Oh, that was good. You're getting better. It's only the second time.
I'm like practicing every night. Sorry, I haven't finished reading this book yet. I'm like practicing my recorder.
So, just to give you guys a heads up, if you don't remember from last time, the 5-sentence summary will actually
Ashley has a flute. Protect your ears.
Has a flute. Yeah. I will be combining books 3 and 4 into one 5-sentence summary. So,
yeah,
not 2, just 1. Okay, here we go. Anne of the Island and Anne of Windy Poplars 5-sentence summary. Anne moves away to Victoria Island to go to Redmond College to earn her BA, where she becomes very good friends with several young ladies, including Priscilla, Philippa, and Stella, who she eventually moves in with at a lovely cottage called Patty's Place that they sublet from 2 older women on a years-long European holiday. Great.
You and my daughter like put a lot of pressure on me to make it try to sound like the theme song, and I don't even remember what the theme song sounds like.
No, it sounds great. Just
Great.
Just to do whatever your heart feels, you know? That's what Anne would want.
That's
you
what
to
I do. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. During her time at college, Anne is proposed to several times, including once from Roy, a young man she thinks she wants to marry after falling for and dating for years, but decides she does not love him. And once from Gilbert, who she turns down, saying she doesn't think of him that way either.
Oh.
Poor Gilbert. Let's play this happy tune.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
there
did
we
it
go.
pretty good.
There we go.
There we go.
I loved her, like, we'll get more into it, but I loved her, like, just getting proposed to left and right. I only mentioned 2 proposals, but there's at least, 2 more? Okay.
Yeah.
As the girls grow up, many big life events happen. Philippa meets a minister and they get married. Anne's childhood friend Ruby dies of tuberculosis after telling Anne that she should never quit writing her stories. Diana also gets married. And after graduation, Anne receives a prestigious job offer, but also learns that Gilbert is sick with typhoid and will likely die. So she rushes to be with him. Then she realizes she loves him. He gets better. He proposes, and Anne accepts.
Three, and I officially changed it to 5 stars. I'm so sorry. I forgot about some of that stuff that happened. I'm a terrible book reviewer. What can I say?
It was just such a lovely time. I loved book 3. Yeah.
Yep.
I love how Gilbert had to be literally on his deathbed, though, for her to be like, I love you.
Yeah. Same thing with me giving him 5 stars. Okay, he's on his deathbed. 5 stars.
5 stars. I'll give it to you. Okay. Anne accepts the job offer for principal at Summerside High School, where she lives with 2 elderly widows and their housekeeper, who she becomes good friends with, while Gilbert lives far away at medical school. She writes him letters all the time about her new life and all the people in it.
4?
I feel like you're making up like your whole own soundtrack. I love that.
That's great. Just get it downloaded on Spotify. Let's go.
Yeah. Anne continues to write and sell her stories, learns to win over the entire community, including the Pringles, who are the town pariahs, and even helps to reunite a lovely young girl, Elizabeth, with her long-lost father. And at the end of her 3 years, she says goodbye and heads back to Avonlea.
Hey, that sounded like What If God Was One of Us?
Yeah, totally.
Don't ask me to recreate it.
I heard it too, though. I heard it
good.
too. Yeah.
It came from my heart, like like you told me to do.
Yeah.
It was Anne's spirit through the flute.
Yep. I love it. So that's what happened in books 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite part in all of this time?
I changed my star rating to 5. I needed a refresher, just like you guys, right? Some of you read this when you were just a wee little one, and you're just coming here for hanging out with my weird flute playing and Liz's amazing 5-sentence skills. So I changed it to 5 stars because I think the 2 books blended together for me. Mm-hmm. My favorite part was in book 3, Anne of the Island, where she was able, it was so quick and so fast, but she was able to go to her birth home. And the lady let her come in and found a box of letters, gave her a box of letters that the previous owners, which were her parents, had left. So there were those little nuggets in there that, like, I was tearing up when that happened, Yeah. So I forgot, like, the emotional, like, feelings that I had throughout this book. And that's what I want in a 5-star read for me. Yeah. So that moment in particular really stuck out to me between both books. Yeah.
Well, because she got to have an insight into, like, how much her parents loved each other, but also loved her. Like, she was so loved. Like, even though she was an orphan, it's like she got to find out that it's like, no, my parents wanted me. Like, my parents loved me. Like, they were, like, deeply in love with each other. Like, they just unfortunately got sick and died.
As a lot of them did back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of like a moment of closure for her, but also confirmation because she felt like her parents must have loved her. She had a very romantic, feeling of her, just of the little pieces that she was able to find out about her parents. So it was kind of like confirmation. Like, okay, all those feelings that I had about them, they were real,
Yeah.
And that's nice as someone who's full of whimsy and romanticizing things to get like validation that it wasn't just make believe in a childlike mind. So
totally,
it was very good closure for her.
Yeah.
Definitely.
My favorite part, much less sentimental, was her breaking up with Roy.
Oh, I loved it. It was so funny.
It was funny, but it was also really admirable, in my opinion.
Especially in those times. Well, even these times, people, make a big stink.
Yeah. Well, or just get married. Like, so the thing is, it's like, Roy on paper is the perfect guy.
Yeah.
Right? He's highly educated. He's super nice. He's romantic. He's good looking. He's super rich. He comes from a great family. And he loves Anne. And he does all the romantic things, and Anne talks about this. He does all the romantic things that she always thought that her future husband would do, in her like most like fantastical imaginings, right?
Yeah.
But she's not in love with him.
Yeah.
Like she really likes him, but at the end of the day, she's not in love with him. And so they've been dating for, I think it's like 2 years, which back then has got to be like a freaking century of dating,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Since people get married usually after like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And, he proposes and she says, no, I can't do this. I don't love you. And he doesn't take it well. I think he takes it gentlemanly, but like after he freaks out, he has to compose himself. And I think I texted Ashley because he literally says, you've ruined my life. And I was like, oh my God, like we thought Anne was dramatic. Okay. So I was cracking up, but it was funny and a good comic relief moment, but I think it was also a really, really important lesson in Anne's life about staying true to herself and not doing what society is telling her to do every step of the way. And not being afraid to be like, because everyone's like, you led him on for 2 years. Like, even her friends are saying that to her. You led him on for 2 years. And she's like, well, I can't marry him. Like, I don't love him like that. Like, I don't want to do that to him or me. That takes a lot of bravery to do that. People still, as you were saying, to this day will marry people because they feel like, oh, my parents spent 30 grand on this wedding. I can't not do it now,
Yeah. Or we'll pass judgments when people break it off.
Yeah.
But right before the wedding. But it's like, it's better to do that than deal with a divorce, Yeah.
Or be unhappy.
live a life of untruth. So there's that. And also, I mean, she's literally saying to them, I didn't lead him on. I was living in my truth. And in that moment, it all connected.
Yep.
All signs lead to no, I can't say. So I was living the day-to-day thinking I was going to marry him. This is what my life is going to be like. And sometimes it does, we villainize people a lot, I think, that initiate the breakups. But sometimes it's the right thing to do, Well,
I wrote a quote down. I was going to share it during the quote section, but I think it's really pertinent right here when she's, I think she's addressing Philippa, I don't know how to say her name, so that's just how I'm going to say it, who is really judgmental about it at first. They kind of get into a little fight, like, why would you do this to him kind of a thing. You've been leading him on. You have the guy that everyone wants, and you're just throwing him away, Yeah. And she's saying, like, how would you not know, basically, And Anne says, I do know my own mind. The trouble is my mind changes, and then I have to get acquainted with it all over again. And it's like, I love that because that's so true. It's like, why do we expect people to make one decision and then just that's how you are for the entirety of your life and existence? Like, that's
and they're literally like 19 or 20,
Yeah, they're still so young, too. Yeah. So I just love that. That was a very good way of explaining that. Like, I do know my own mind, but like, I'm a person and I evolve. And so I have to relearn myself over and over and over again, probably forever,
Yeah. And being open to that and not being like so set in your ways that you can't adjust things. Not being flighty, but also, just basically making adjustments as new information is presented to you on the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And then also, I just really liked the way Ella Montgomery wrote that whole situation because, she has to deal with the the feedback and sometimes fallout from people around her. And then, you know, she's hanging out with her ex-fiance to be's sister, who was one of her best friends there, and is like, oh, I hope that we could still be friends. And she's like, yeah, duh. Which also is nice to see, because it's really hard to maintain those relationships if a fallout happens. But, you know, they're talking and she's like, ugh, he falls in love with everybody he meets. Don't worry about it. You know, it's just like she knows her brother better than anybody, and it's like, oh, he'll be fine. She said he said I ruined his life. It's like, oh, he said that the last girl that, you know, he had actually proposed to like 2 other girls before her that said no. So it definitely, poor guy, but also like, I don't know, you know.
Maybe reel it in a little bit.
Maybe you're coming on strong. I don't know. Something's not clicking. If it's the 3rd proposal or something like that, it's not working out for you.
Ross.
But it just helped, like, how he's dramatic every time, and then he just finds another girl the next week. Yeah. You know? It's kind of like what her sister made me feel like. He's just like, he falls in love with falling in love, you know? So, yep. Yeah.
Well, it's probably expectations, societal expectations on him as well, you know, coming from that kind of family. I'm sure.
And then also, I mean, totally. We could do a whole, you know, segment on that, is like what kind of toxic masculinity is also at play, you know, and misogyny, even for the males. He comes from a good family. He has, he's been to university. He's educated. He has all the things. And he's still getting told no over and over again. So, you know, and so does he really want to be married, or is he, falling in love to just get that next step done? Yeah. And that's probably some part of what Anne feels too. It's like, well, he probably doesn't really love me either, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
What about your least favorite part from books 3 and 4?
Well, it was meant to be bad. Okay, there's two things. So one thing flat out that I just hated in book 3 was when they tried to kill the scraggly cat. That was just terrible. Oh man,
the scraggly cat. I can't remember his name. Dusty?
No, I mean,
it was like the name Rusty. It was Rusty. He's the name of a color.
Rusty.
Yeah.
Dusty.
That was really sad and cringe.
That was sad. Yeah, that was cringe. I had to rewind it. Like, not rewind it, but like go back and like reread. Like, was that right? Yeah, they were trying to kill the cat because they're like, oh, he won't die. And she's like, I'll take him, you know, which is great. Anne ended up taking him in and being her cat, but it still was like, ugh. But then the other bad part that I just wanted to talk about, it was meant to be bad, but some good came out of it. So it was sad. I definitely was tearing up from this part in book 4. Windy Poplars. I'm trying to teach my brain the differences. The little boy that died that they met when they were basically out soliciting, you know, sad. For selling stuff. It was so sad.
I got the flu and died. I was like, that was like a plot, like, we just made a hard left. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa. Like. Yeah. So they meet this little boy out, you know, I figure like the end of his driveway kind of situation, and his dad's grumpy because the mom died. It's kind of like a Secret Garden situation in that, you know, the mom died and he's all grumpy and whatever, crotchety. And so the son, though, is yearning for some connections because he doesn't let his boy go to school, but he's thinking about sending him to school now. And then they ended up taking a picture of him. And then they go to develop the picture, right? And then they find out, oh, that boy just died from the flu, as they did back then. And at least, though, they were able to go and give the father that one photo that he had, because obviously pictures were so rare back then. And that's all he was saying to the people when his son passed away is, I wish I just had a picture of him because I don't remember what he looks like, you know, as I have one of those bad memories that can't remember faces. And that's so heartbreaking. Can you imagine like living in that age and not having that kind of memory, that you don't even remember what they look like? How sad. So I was crying. And so that was a terrible So I was
part.
crying. Yeah, totally.
So I was crying. It was heartbreaking.
It was a jump scare for me. I didn't expect it to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was just kind of like, you know, hanging out with the widows, having a grand old time, bopping around. Oh, death.
Yeah. Destruction. Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was nice that they were able to give that to them, but oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you?
My least favorite part, other than the boy dying, because that was on my list as well, was that in book 4, so book 4 is predominantly composed of letters that Anne writes to Gilbert over the course of 3 years that she's teaching out in Summerside and that Gilbert is at medical school. So they're separated. They only see each other like very rarely. I didn't like the format because I felt like it made it feel very disjointed to me. But furthermore, I feel like I would have liked it better if there was any letters from Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
It was weird to me that it was like only letters from Anne to Gilbert and then just none back from him. And we know he wrote her letters. It's not like in 3 years he didn't write her at all. And I was like, why are we not getting any of his POV? I thought that was really weird.
Well, in, I guess, the defense of the author, not that she's asked me to defend you, or defend her, what if that was intentional? Because she just wants it to be about Anne's voice.
Yeah.
And, it's not so much about her relationship with Gilbert or what's going on with Gilbert, and just very strategically keeping this a woman's story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. I just feel like, for some reason, I feel like I would have connected with it more if we could, like, see both sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As far as their love growing, for sure. Because she mentions one of the quotes. I don't know if I wrote down. No, but it was something about, like, oh, dramatically, I love you, something. And it's like, yeah, but how? Like, I feel like, how is your love blooming? Because we're not hearing any of that kind of correspondence about getting to know each other more, falling in love with each other more. So for their love story, I felt disjointed. Because I'm like, I don't know. Other than the childhood connection, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like because it was just like glimpses of her every day.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. It wasn't really like one long story like the rest of the books are, like most books are. It was like little snippets of different parts of her life that were happening over the course of these 3 years that she was choosing to write and tell to Gilbert. And so to me, it just, it seemed very disjointed. So that was kind of my biggest critique of this book. The tone was different. For sure. I did appreciate that every once in a while it would tell us that like 2 pages in one of her letters was redacted. I was like, ooh, does that mean it was like steamy? Like, what does that mean? I'm like, I love that. It was cute. But yeah, so that's my biggest critique. Disjointed. Would have preferred, even if it was only like 2 letters from Gilbert. You know what I mean? Just like, it didn't have to be a lot. Just something.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. But I kind of liked it as like just a change up from the other 3 books that we read. I was like, oh, cute. I like this. This is nice.
Different style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite character? Choosing someone other than Anne.
Honestly, I thought the Grumpy Widows were funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I had a good time with them.
Yeah.
So, especially how she's like kind of, helping the one with her face cream and, then the other one's grumpy and naysayer. I thought it was fun, I was having a good time reading about it. Also, I loved the girl who let them stay in her house. What is the house called in college?
Patty's Place is what the name of the house is called. I don't remember their names. I don't remember if one of them was named Patty. But yeah, they were great for sure.
Yeah. They're great. Yeah. Who stuck out to you?
So I put 2. I put Rebecca Dew, who was the housekeeper for the widows. I loved her. Her character was so great and just... because she was very similar to Marilla almost. I think that was kind of intentional. Like, very, like, stoic, God-fearing old school lady, but, like, who really appreciated Anne's personality and kind of allowed her to bring her out of her shell a little bit. Like, Anne brought her out of her shell. I really appreciated her. I also really appreciated... I'm mixing them up now, but was it Philippa who was the one who... She's the one who married the priest, right? Or the minister or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember her name.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's who it was. I'm like getting it confused right now. But anyways, one of her college friends. And I loved her character because she reminded me a lot of... I'm so bad with names. It's driving... Of Jordan from The Great Gatsby. So to me, she kind of like really represented that, like... She was like the fun college party girl. that's who she was. And she, you know, ultimately ended up settling down and marrying a minister, which was kind of hilarious. And even she understood the irony behind that. But I really liked her character because she really like challenged Anne's way of thinking and also like showed us another kind of like feminine archetype that I feel like we hadn't seen up until this point.
Yeah, definitely.
So I really appreciated both of them. What about your least favorite character?
I mean, the Pringles in general in book 4, but specifically that little Pringle girl who was just a menace. A menace to society, and specifically Anne. Yeah,
I had 2 least favorites. I don't remember either of their names. The lady who won't let her daughter go anywhere, who like would never stop complaining about everything. Oh my God. I was like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. The like 80-something-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
The one who like, Anne's like, we're just going to wheel you outside so that you can eat out here. And I was like, just push her off the porch. I
haven't been outside in 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, good luck. I'm going to get a cold. But then she's like obviously enjoying herself. Yeah. It's super annoying. It's like, can you just like not be so crotchety and complain about everything?
Literally, she was Negative Nancy from SNL. Like, literally.
Yes, 100%. She was like, oh, I love eating crackers. Did you know crackers is a leading cause of death among 20-year-olds?
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay.
Yeah. So she is tied with the high school or like early college. I think it was probably late high school since that's what Anne was teaching. Girl who supposedly didn't want to marry that guy. So she asked Anne if she would tell him and then freaked out and said that she was sabotaging their relationship. I was like, you're the worst.
Dude, that was like, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, it's so funny because I was like, oh, Anne is like the perfect person for her to come to about not wanting to marry this guy she thought thought she wanted to marry because Anne's been through it, you know? And she very much just kind of like, just barely guides her, just kind of lets her hash it out, but is like, I'm not gonna, go tell him for me. No, I'm not gonna get involved. You got to do it yourself. But like, and then it happens to naturally be able to be brought up from the guy. It's like, oh, well, then it's perfect because she doesn't want to either. And then she freaks out.
So she's like, sabotaging, dude. Like she wants to be with him. I was like, oh my God, come on.
It was kind of wild to me that there was no real like closure from that scenario. It's just Anne being like, ugh, whatever. Yeah. Golly.
Well, I think that was the point, right? It's like, I feel like that's the kind of the point of the point of book 3 is college years, right? Like, what do we learn in college years? The point of book 4 was very much like you're a young adult with your first real job, like learning to navigate like society. And so I think it was like a bunch of anecdotal stories to kind of like show that Anne is maturing and how to deal with these kind of situations. Yeah,
and sometimes you just kind of gotta let it go because this is like a 18-year-old that's just spiraling and having a temper tantrum.
What are you gonna do? Argue with this like high school student about who thinks you want to steal her boyfriend? Like, no.
And she has like a cold. Were you listening to that book? And the narrator even like is talking like a stuffed nose. It was so funny. That narrator did a good job.
She did.
I will shout out whatever that audiobook narrator was.
Yeah.
Super good. She did super good job.
Yeah. She does a lot of them too. Okay, so bonus question. What would you have found most relatable as a young girl versus an adult woman now?
Probably her saying no to her proposal. You know? Yeah, definitely. You know, feeling like you can get out of a relationship that's not serving you, you know?
Yeah.
I think that is a good role model, dare I say. It's something that we don't often see as women as being an option, even boys, you know. And I think that is important to show. So whatever age it is, and it doesn't even have to be a relationship, but as certain scenarios that aren't serving you and you thought that they were.
It's okay to let them go. You don't have to hold on
forever. It's okay to
forever.
let them go. Yeah. It's okay to let maybe even that friendship go, or maybe even that job go that you thought was going to be the most important, like the best job you ever had. And it's like, well, this one, it sucks. The boss sucks or whatever. It's not fulfilling.
Yep.
And maybe I need to, in the, meantime, figure out something else to do with my life, or whatever it may be.
Totally.
Yeah.
I put very similar thing. Anne calls them the quote unquote bends in the road. So I just put looking back and seeing everything as temporary, fluid, or much less permanent and serious. So it's like, I feel like when you're young, it's like, no, I'm going to get this career and I'm going to do this job and this is what I'm going to do until I retire or whatever. Or like, if I'm in this relationship in high school, this is the guy that I'm going to marry and be with until I die or whatever. It's like everything just seems so black and white, so permanent, so serious. And it's like, no, everything is actually the opposite of that. Anything can change at any time. And I think that, just recognizing that everything is temporary and you don't have to necessarily subscribe to, a job or a way of thinking or a relationship for your whole entire life just because you thought that's what you wanted when you were 17, right?
Yeah.
I got that out of it too. So that's good. Look at that.
Yeah.
So how did books 3 and 4 make you feel? Like, were there any specific literary devices or, techniques that Ella Montgomery used to help us get there?
Well, I will give a shout out to the Christmas story in book 4. I did like the Christmas scene. So that made me feel nostalgic. I love it. And how she brought yet another kindred spirit. That girl reminded me of a lot of girls, I think, growing up. The one that was very, grumpy and naysayer and not interested. But really it was a defense mechanism. Because she was always told she was ugly and she wasn't worth anything. So she just didn't put herself out there. She was on a career path to a job she didn't want. Or she was in it. She was a school teacher. She didn't even want to do that. She was just told that's pretty much the only job you can have as a woman back then. Not even allowing herself to live her full potential. And I loved how we could see that through relationships with others, sometimes that we can bring the best parts out of us. So Anne kind of pulling her out of her shell and the girl having to intentionally let her guard down and be open to the possibilities of a different lifestyle and living her true self in action. So we could see kind of what Anne does, fully blank, clear as day, black and white for us, for what she can do through her relationships with different people. So I thought that was great. Yeah.
I put that it made me feel nostalgic, for sure. Just as far as how did these books make me feel? I feel like book 3 definitely made me feel nostalgic just because I put, living with all your girlfriends at college. I loved that vibe. Book 4 made me feel kind of a little bit annoyed because the tone was so different. So that's going back to, I was really struggling with book 4. I didn't love it as much for that reason. And I didn't find it, in my opinion, all that relatable. To me in a lot of ways. I feel like a lot of the lessons are relatable, but as far as kind of the anecdotal stories, I was like, well, I don't know. I don't encounter, and I mean, I talk to a lot of people all the time at my job, and still I feel like, I don't know, it was very different back then, so I had a little bit of a harder time relating. But for the book that I really did enjoy, which was 3, I felt like the whole, college years, figuring out who you want to date and, just enjoying those special times with your really close friends while you try to figure out who you are. That's what I really loved about this kind of section in Anne's life.
Yeah. I will say, so book 4 to me was an example of her being a little kindred collector. Right? Which we've already seen, but we heavily saw it because we're only seeing glimpses into her life for 3 years. So for me, it was kind of a reminder, I guess you could say. I don't know how to word this, but maybe after I say this paragraph that I wrote, it'll help. That people can be mean, crotchety, and judgmental, but these days, right? Everybody can be like that. We all have the ability, but then just people in general, they could have a disposition. Oh, you come across somebody in the store and they're mean and they're crotchety and they're judgmental, But nowhere near do we experience that amount of that as they did back then. Back then, that was the neutral personality. Like that was across the board. Almost everybody she comes across, especially in this Windy Poplars place, are mean and crotchety and set in their ways and just the worst. So it's kind of like, maybe people are pretty good, because for the most part, it's more like, oh my gosh, there was this lady in the store today who was so mean. When Anne, what she's going through is, it's more like, oh, that one person was actually nice.
Yeah.
But it's also a reminder that those people that still hold that disposition these days, it's kind of, they came from somewhere, right? It's kind of like over time we're trying to dilute that and not be so quick to judge, not be so crotchety and act so bitter. And even just the people that are acting ancient when they're 28 years old.
I know, right? Oh my gosh.
So it's kind of like, look how far we've come. As much as people can annoy us and be ridiculous, I'm grateful. So maybe this book made me grateful that it's not back then. That it's not the early 1900s. We do hold some. This was only 100 years ago. People in our society do still hold some of these same values of you need to get married at 18. You need to do this. But overall, we have come a long way. So that's kind of, I don't know what to word that as, but it kind of just shows me, it makes me feel grateful that we have more work to do, but we've come a long way.
Yeah, okay.
As a society.
Some perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you're saying this too, I'm kind of realizing like, books 1 and 2 were obviously like Anne's childhood and high school, we'll just say, right? Book 3 is college. Book 4 is like her young adult 3 years before she gets married. I'm assuming in the next book, I don't know because I haven't read it yet, but I'm assuming in the next book she gets married to Gilbert and that starts their life together. Yeah. It's kind of like that interim, right? Where you're just like early 20s, you're dating, you're trying to figure out your career. And so looking at it through that lens, and this is what I mean about having to like talk it out before I make like a final review.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I'm looking at it in that way, it kind of makes more sense to me. Yeah. Because like when I was reading it not through that lens, I was kind of like, what is this weird like collection of miscellaneous stories about like all these random people? And I was like, well, that's kind of what it is though, before you have, your own kind of like family unit, you know what I mean, that everything centers around. It's like you're just this individual person kind of figuring out how to form your own identity and personality based on all the different interactions and people you have around you all the time, you know what I mean? So okay, makes it make a little bit more sense. I think
I mean, and through these people too, she's getting different glimpses of possible paths, possible bends in her road. She's in the house of widows who, got married young and then some of them didn't really develop as people, or some of them are still, unmarried spinsters at 28 years old. So she's able to kind of like start making decisions for what path she'll want to go down, her life by these relationships with other people. So yeah, it's so funny anytime we are reading about, oh, she's so old and crotchety. She's like, oh, I'm gray and old. And she's like 41. It's like, what? It's just so crazy.
It's like the whole like story that I really enjoyed about, the girl who was last in her family to get married and she didn't know if she'd ever get married and she had too big of a nose and like whatever. And there was this man that, she loved, but then it wasn't working out. And then Anne kind of helped to bring them together or whatever. You find out she was literally 28.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. I thought she was literally like 60 years old. I was like, oh, you're 28? Okay.
28.
Yeah.
20, almost 10 years younger than us. Jeez,
I know.
It does show you though, like too, in that time, and like I said, still happens today, like how centered people's happiness can be on whether they're in a relationship or not, And I think Anne is, she's fighting that obligation in the times that are there, and seeing and saying, hey, I don't have to, like, she's even like, girl, calm down. It's all fine. But then also helping the ones that are harboring their feelings and not acting upon them because they feel so,
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey.
So what about, any particular feminist issues that you feel like L.M. Montgomery was addressing during this time, or just societal
literally
issues at large?
all that. Getting married young, have only answer is to start a family. And that is how you become a successful woman. I think she's getting that pressure a lot, starting when she was in, I don't know what they would call it, elementary school, high school, but back in book 2, and we still see those themes today. And she was writing this during the present times, right? Not present times, but of these present times, right?
Yeah.
Like literally she saw all of this happening. We grew up in a small town and we saw it happen. My family even was like, you're going to be a spinster. You're 22 and not married. And I'm like, oh my gosh, So I think addressing those themes and helping to, even by just calling out, hey, this roommate is only 28 years old. It kind of lightens it up a little bit, I think, for people, hopefully too, in that time, that's like, oh, there are other ways to live,
Yeah, totally.
And 28 isn't that old, So yeah, that's what really stuck out for me.
Yeah, and I think, I mentioned this in the last episode too. I kind of gave a list of like all the different women who I thought kind of represented different things. And I think that that's kind of like one of L.M. Montgomery's tactics, right? Or like literary devices she uses is like, how am I going to have these characters symbolize like women's different like roles, So... Mm-hmm. We have Diana who gets married and then has a baby, right? So she's still kind of sticking with that very like traditional woman, like she's fulfilling the expectations. And then you have the friend at college who I was talking about before, who kind of represents more of that like kind of free spirit. She ultimately ends up getting married as well, but I feel like, it's unusual at that time for women to go to college at all.
Yeah.
Anne was the first one, to go to college from Prince Edward Island. And, if you did go to college as a woman at that time, the expectation was that you went just to find a man to marry.
Yeah.
That's why you went. And so, kind of representing like, no, I can go to college and I can learn and I can get straight A's and I can have fun at parties and I can live on my own and like all these kind of that kind of stuff. I liked that. I listed Rebecca Dew, the housekeeper for the widows, like, who I said was very much like Marilla, the widows themselves, the traveling ladies who went to Europe for, 3 years or whatever, 4 years. I just feel like that's kind of the method that the author is using to kind of show that it's like, even at that time with women being put into these really strategically created boxes, there was still like so many other ways to be, and there were so many women breaking out of that even back then.
Yeah.
Because I think lots of times we can have kind of like a reductive perspective on like women in history, right? Because of the expectations. And I think that's what she's saying is like, well, they keep on trying to put us in the boxes, but no, there's actually all these different characters just in Anne's life. So you can imagine how the world is, right? And so that's what I really appreciated, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I just put, like all the marriage proposals, which were crazy. A lot of them.
That one, like, ugly boy down the road from her in book 3 is like, all right, well, you'll just marry me, right? It says Billy Andrew. Is that right?
Yeah. And then the one whose, like, sister proposed for him, like, that one was crazy. Like, I just feel like that was really funny. Just the fact that, she went to college at all, that she is getting a job, that she's a published author, that she's dressing a certain way. Someone in the story made a big stink about wearing, dresses without collars. And Anne was like, well, I'm not wearing dresses with collars. Like, what's the big deal?
And there was like, they're only wearing 3 like undergarment layers or something like, and can you imagine no AC with all those clothes? Ugh.
So I just put here, all those things, everything from, getting a job to reading, to writing, to dressing a certain way. Those are all political acts, especially when those things are attempting to be controlled by, the powers that be. So, just by being who she is, she's making inherently political statements. So really loved that. What did you think of Anne's character in these books? Like, do you think it was typical for girls and women to be portrayed this way in popular literature at that time? Or do you think that she kind of was a unique character?
I haven't read enough literature of that time to give like a proper analysis, to be fair. But overall, as someone who lives in the here and now and knows a lot of generalization of that time, yeah, she's a different, unique character that is very important for especially young women to see alternative lifestyles from. Even though it's not that alternative, it's not that wild for us now. But for them
now, that's the key. Yeah. Because, I mean, what is she doing? She's doing all the things, right? Like, she's a great student. She's growing up to go to college. Then, she's already engaged to Gilbert, assuming she'll get a house and a husband as soon as she's done, has her career. She's kind of checking all the things off the list that, like, now would be, like, traditional kind of expectations almost. You know what I mean? But
she's doing it on her time.
Yeah.
Very much so.
She didn't say yes to Gilbert the first time he asked, years ago.
First 3 times. Yeah.
Oh my God, Gilbert. Or said yes to any of the other like 5 guys who have asked her.
Even though she's getting pressure from especially all the other women in her life. Like, oh, yep, you're nearing your college end. Like, good thing you have a guy secured, Yeah. And like, you're got to say yes to this one. Well, you better hurry up. You could be an old spinster like me, at 28. So she's pushing back just by being herself. It's not even that she's inherently trying to make these acts of resistance. She's just like, why? Like, I'm just going to be me. Whatever.
I
It's
agree.
through women like this, honestly, that have helped pave the way to be sitting here doing a podcast with you, wearing pants, Honestly,
Totally.
like, as much of like how silly that sounds, it's literally like through these people that question the status quo, even by just naturally being themselves, just choosing not to put on a collar that day, who have got us to where we are today,
Yeah.
And that's why, as a society, there are more steps we can make, but we can just see in this 100 years just how much we've changed as a society in a positive way, steps towards more independence as women. Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that takes us kind of into the next question, too. Like, does Anne have characteristics similar to those we value in the popular books we read today? And I would say definitely for sure.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like we read a lot of fantasy, so it's like this isn't fantasy, but a lot of the characteristics that we appreciate in our favorite, fantasy heroines, Anne just has as a regular old person existing in life, so...
Isn't that crazy to think about, though? Like, the fact that, it's a big topic of conversation, especially on our podcast, how we are getting female representation in fantasy novels, how 100 years after Anne of Green Gables, that's crazy and wild and amazing that hasn't happened yet. And right now it's, we're having a renaissance, if you will, of, badass FMCs, especially. And it took 100 years to get there. Almost.
Yeah,
not to say there wasn't before, but it's specifically blowing up right now,
Well, it's blowing up. It's becoming super, super popular in like traditional publishing. That's
crazy.
Had to start somewhere,
Yeah.
It's been going for a long time. I think that's kind of like the point, right? Is that change takes time. And it's crazy to think that like Anne of Green Gables first came out in 1908. Here we are in 2025. We're, finally... fantasy that's centering women's lives, pleasure, accomplishments, etc., is becoming as popular as it is. Yeah. So that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
So anything else that you wanted to say about like any of the growth that's happening with Anne, any of the, moral psychological development that's going on with her in regards to, this is a coming of age story that you wanted to address? I feel like this is pretty much just her learning to navigate college and then society, as a young, early 20-something kind of.
Yeah. I do appreciate her call outs on herself too, because as a reader, it's nice to know that it's intentional. It's just her call outs of like, oh, I'm still whimsical and romantical, but I'm not the same girl that I was at 11, when we were first introduced to her. That she has understood the world. She's not like, because that would get a little out of control, right? So you can still have that whimsy, but she also is balancing it right now with seriousness and the serious things that are coming through her life, So she's becoming a fully fledged adult, but not losing that side of her.
So, do you have any notable quotes or cringy quotes that you'd like to share?
Got a nice mix. We'll go back and forth. Most of the trouble in life comes from misunderstanding, I think, said Anne. See? Anne gets it. Misunderstanding trope is bad.
Wait, that was in book 3?
Yeah.
That's funny. The one quote that I liked from book 4 is, I think it is just misunderstanding that makes most of the trouble in the world. That's from book 4. So
it's kind of like a reworded.
Yeah.
It's the same quote, but different.
Yeah. So that must just be like
twice.
a theme. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She really wants us to understand.
You are the first Avonlea girl who has ever gone to college, and you know that all pioneers are considered to be afflicted with moonstruck madness.
Ooh. I loved you ever since that day you broke that slate over my head in school. Yeah. That was cute.
I have that one too. Very cute. I loved this quote. I hope no great sorrow ever will come to you, Anne, said Gilbert, who could not connect the idea of sorrow with the vivid, joyous creature beside him, unwitting that those who can soar to the highest heights can also plunge to the deepest depths, and that the natures with which enjoy most keenly are those which also suffer most sharply. And I was like, that's such a good quote.
So poetic. Gilbert.
So poetic, but also just like makes so much sense because it's true. Yeah. It's like, you know, if you have someone who like feels that deeply, it's going to be both sides of that coin. You know what I mean? It's not just going to be one side. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, she said, oh, she thought, how horrible it is that people have to grow up and marry and change.
She had had her secret dreams of the first time someone should ask her the great question. And it had, in those dreams, always been very romantic and beautiful. And the someone who was to be very handsome and dark-eyed and distinguished-looking and eloquent, whether he were Prince Charming to be enraptured with yes, or one to whom a regretful, beautifully worded, but hopeless refusal must be given. If the latter, the refusal was to be expressed so delicately that it would be the next best thing to acceptance, and he would go away after kissing her hand, assuring her of his unalterable lifelong devotion, and it would always be a beautiful memory to be proud of and a little sad about also. And now this thrilling experience had turned out to be merely grotesque. So that's what she's talking about, like the first time she gets proposed to. And I'm like, it was those moments, because at the end of that she says, would the painful process go on until everything became prosaic and humdrum? So she's realizing that not everything in life, even a proposal, is going to turn out as you have like pictured it in your head. So that was like a really good marker, in my opinion, of growth. And she's questioning, like, you know, is everything in life going to just turn out to be this humdrum and boring, even though I've lifted it up to such this, like, you know, kind of put things on a pedestal. And I'm like, it's kind of like that reality check, but like while also not becoming cynical, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This one's for the cat people out there. I myself love cats and dogs, so here we go. I love them. They are so nice and selfish. Dogs are too good and unselfish. They make me feel uncomfortable, but cats are gloriously human. Thought it was cute.
So she's talking to one of the older women. How many girls were you, Aunt Jimsy? About half a dozen, my dear. She's talking about how over the course of a lifetime, like how many different people are you? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. These are my book 4 quotes now I'm getting into.
Okay.
You were never poor as long as you had something to love.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Beautiful.
Yep.
Not someone, something. You know, because it could be a someone, it could be a something.
Yeah.
You have that
just
passion.
something. Yeah. Like anything.
Yeah. Just like something.
Oh no, I wouldn't want to marry anybody who is wicked, but I think I'd like it if he could be wicked and wouldn't. I was like, Anne was on to something.
Yeah.
Even back then.
And all of us book babes can relate to this. I hate to lend a book I love. It never seems quite the same when it comes back to me.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Sometimes it does. But, you know, sometimes it's covered in coffee. So, hey.
This is Gilbert. I asked you a question over 2 years ago, Anne. If I ask it again today, will you give me a different answer? Still, Anne could not speak, but she lifted her eyes, shining with all the love rapture of countless generations, and looked into his for a moment. He wanted no other answer. Like, how sweet.
Okay, this is the last one I have.
Okay.
But I believe I rather like superstitious people. They lend color to life. Wouldn't it be rather drab world if everybody was wise and sensible and good? What would we find to talk about?
Yeah. I noticed that one too. It's cute.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good thing we're not all the same, you know? Some people can be crotchety, you know? It spices up life. Yeah.
So this is also my last one. Gilbert drew her close to him and kissed her. Then they walked home together in the dusk, crowned king and queen in the bridal realm of love, along winding paths fringed with the sweetest flowers that ever bloomed, and over haunted meadows where winds of hope and memory blew.
Aww.
It's after they got engaged. I'm like, how sweet.
So sweet. You're so sentimental. I love it.
I mean, it's like a very classic love story, and I love reading. It's nostalgic for me because I loved it so much as a kid, and I'm like, this explains a lot. You know what I mean? I'm like, it makes sense. It's like totally Gilbert walked so that, you know, our book boyfriends could run. Like literally, it's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think that we both find it to be a positive contribution to the canon, right? Like no critiques as far as that goes. Yeah.
Nope.
100%. So I just wanted to give a little context. So book 3... Anne of the Island on Goodreads has about 188,000 reviews, and it gets a 4.28. Book 4 has 107,000, and it gets a 4.01. So it barely hits that 4. So I think a lot of people shared a similar opinion as I did on liking book 4 a little bit less. I did find a critique on Reddit from someone who was talking about kind of the same issue I had. So I am rereading the Anne books and discovered this book for the first time. I read it in the order of Anne's life's progression. I honestly wasn't particularly enjoying it. It was okay. I finished it though, and when I finally started Anne's House of Dreams, I could almost taste the original Anne flavor, and I'm really enjoying Anne again immensely. I think that Anne in the Windy Poplars books is very unlike her, and that's exactly how I felt. I felt a little bit like it was disjointed and her personality was a little bit different, but like as I'm talking this out with you and just in general, I'm wondering if that's because no one really knows who they are during that time. And so maybe that's intentional. You know what I mean? Like I might be thinking a little bit too far into it, but it might also just be, hey, between the ages of 20 or like 18 and 23, how many of us really know anything about who we really are? You know what I mean? So that might be kind of the point.
Yeah. Well, and also the other books, right, are narrated. So it's the narrator's perspective of Anne and all these people. These are letters and what she's choosing to write about other people, really, and her responses. So maybe not as romanticized or dramatized as the narrator witnessing Anne's personality with these people, you know? So that's definitely why there's a different tone, 100%. So is it because the narrator, you know, the author, I mean, wanted to give a different perspective? Is it deliberate? Is it, I tried it, it didn't work, let me change it back to the original? You know, we'll find out as we go.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any bonus questions for me today?
I couldn't really think of any, because obviously with the end of book 3, I was like, are we finally gonna get the Gilbert romance going on?
Aww,
and they're like, well, kind of, but not really. So yes, it's there. She professes her love to him occasionally, but we're not seeing that. But again, I don't think that's what the focus is right now. So, you know,
I'm curious for book 5 to see if that's kind of like where this goes.
Yeah. We'll see. I have no idea what is going to be next.
Me neither.
So we'll see.
We'll
find out.
No spoilers for me.
Yep.
Do you have a fun fact?
Okay. So specifically regarding Windy Poplars. Okay.
Okay.
A fun fact. Windy Poplars was actually originally titled Windy Willows. However, American publisher requested a title change due to its similarities to The Wind in the Willows, which we all know and love. And the UK publisher, on the other hand, actually retained the original title just to make things more confusing for everybody.
Right.
So there you go.
That's interesting. Yeah, The Wind in the Willows. I remember. Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's too complicated. Wind in the Windy Poplars. No, Wind in the Windy Willows. Okay, maybe it is. Poplars is better. You're right. My daughter was so cute. She's like, poplars? Who ever heard of a poplar before? What even is a poplar? I'm like, oh, it's a type of pine tree. She's like, oh, okay. This is cute.
All
Okay.
right. Well, I feel like that pretty much wraps up books 3 and 4.
There we go. Case
So
closed.
we'll be back for 5 and 6. I'm excited for 5 and 6.
Case not closed. So hang
Case
on.
not closed. Okay.
So far, is book 4 worth a read in your opinion? To the
I
people
think it's worth a read, but it is my least favorite.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious, like, once we read all 8, right? So we're officially halfway through.
Yeah.
And it's also truly about halfway through because I have it on Kindle and, like, pages wise, it's like almost smack dab around 50%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be curious to see how we end up ranking them all. It wouldn't shock me if this is my least favorite of all of them. Just based on what I kind of read with reviews and things like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah, I definitely think it's worth reading. But I would be lying if I said that I liked it as much as the other ones because I do not.
For sure. I get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think I will retain the 4-star rating that I gave it at this time.
Okay. Didn't knock it down to a 3.
No.
Okay,
No,
and
it's
I
good.
moved my book 3 up to a 5-star. So there you go.
And so book 4
There
for
you
you
go.
is still a 4-star though.
Still 4-star. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, is it worth a read if you really love the world in Anne of Green Gables stories? Yeah. But we'll figure out as we go. Too soon to tell with only one book to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I gotta dive into. I mean, I only have ever as a kid read 3, and I think that's pretty common for most people. And so, yeah, I'm excited to get into book 5. Maybe see if there's some little romance that goes on between her and Gilbert finally.
Yeah.
And go from there.
There we go. There we go, guys. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcasts, including YouTube. And then also hang out with us over on Instagram and TikTok at Besties in the Books Podcast everywhere. And on Fable, we are at Besties and the Book Club. But you guys, before next Friday, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.